Listening to the IFF TV podcast.
Tony O'Donoghue, please.
Thanks, Kieran. Hi, Stephen. How are you?
How are you, Tony? How are you?
I'm good, thanks, yeah. Stephen, because you've lost Matt Doherty and then Stevens to injury, your two wing-backs, will that mean a change of system for the game against Qatar?
Well, it's certainly a possibility. I think, we have other options in that regard in people like Cyrus Christie, Ryan Manning, of course, and James McLean, who's just obviously come back from injury and come on the last two games. So we do have other options in that regard. So we'll have to wait and see.
But have you thought about the system and how it worked against Luxembourg? What are your thoughts having looked back on the game now?
Well, I think we played, 3-4-1-2 against Serbia, and I thought it worked brilliantly. In fact, I thought it was probably one of the best displays by an Irish team away from home in recent years. And I think we played very well, lost a narrow game. Obviously, we made one or two mistakes and got punished in the end, which we were disappointed with. But our overall display was excellent. I think against Luxembourg, again, we've dominated a lot of possession. But obviously, in the final third, we had a lot of situations 4v3, a lot of situations where we could overload and maximise the situation in the final third, and we didn't do that. Having looked back at the game, reflected on it, we did a lot of good things in the game, but we didn't capitalise on the opportunities we had in the final third, and that was a disappointing aspect of it, because we didn't create enough clear-cut chances. James Collins had a great opportunity that we thought was in. Obviously, Shane Long had two chances, had a header and had a chance through. And Robbie Brady gave us good delivery from that. Alan Brown had a free header. And obviously James Collins had the overhead kick, but we didn't create enough clear-cut chances for the possession that we had. And that was an issue for us, I think we didn't deserve, looking back on it, we definitely didn't deserve to lose the game. They've only had one chance in the game, and a shot from outside the box, and we definitely didn't deserve to lose the game. We had the lion's share, but admittedly, you shouldn't be losing. It's a home game against Luxembourg, and you're expected to win, and I respect that. But we definitely didn't deserve to lose that game for sure, even though we must do better. There's no doubt about it. We must do better in the way that, in our creativity in the final third.
Thanks, Stephen.
Guy Havard, please, Sky Sports.
Hi, Stephen. Hope you're well. Just
Hi,
picking
Guy.
up on that, you said you didn't deserve to lose. You've come in for a lot of criticism individually and as a team for the last sort of 48 hours. How do you respond to that, and do you think it's fair?
Listen, criticism. I knew when I took the job that's where we're at. Okay, if you lose to Luxembourg, you have to accept the criticism. I'm not naive in that regard, but I do think, I think looking over the way we've played, we're a penalty kick away from, Scotland, for example, have beaten Israel on penalty kicks, and then Serbia on penalty kicks to go through. We lost on penalty kicks to go out against Slovakia away in a really top class performance in that match. I think in the game against Serbia, we showed what we're made of. We played really well, lost 3-2. The big letdown for us has been losing to Luxembourg. We wanted to go away. We've introduced 13 young players into the squad. We've introduced incorporating them with some of the senior players that have been in the squad. I think we wanted to go to Spain for 9 days in June, which we are, to work on the whole collective way we want to play, and certainly to work on the spirit of integrating all the players in with all the new players we brought in, and we wanted to ramp that up, and with friendlies against Andorra, of course, and Hungary in June, and that's what we wanted to do, and then bring that into September. But the big letdown has been losing to Luxembourg, and that's been the big disappointment, because Luxembourg, of course, have drew a France, and France went on to won the World Cup. They've beaten other countries. They've had some. It's not the Luxembourg of old, but we can't be disrespectful, but our expectation is that we should be beating them at home, and we didn't. So you have to accept criticism for that.
And a specific question about tomorrow night. You may have seen the protests from the likes of Germany and the Netherlands protesting against alleged human rights abuse involving the Qatar World Cup. Will your players produce anything as a way of a protest, T-shirts, anything at all tomorrow night?
Yeah, I think the intensity of the camp has been so hectic with 3 games in 6 days and all that's been around it, and our focus on trying to win the World Cup games. You know, I'm all about freedom of speech. Any individual has the right to express their opinion on the majority of issues. I've no problem with that. I think there is a clear issue with human rights issues in the building of stadiums in Qatar, and the number of people have died. That's, you know, we can't sweep that under the carpet. That can't be ignored. And I think, you know, initially the Norwegian team and various other teams then have backed that. And I do, you know, they're entitled to do that with good reason. You know, I think, you know, the world, there wasn't, you know, I think, you know, it's not acceptable, you know, for so many people to lose their lives. And the disparity of wealth, you know, between rich and poor, you know, to have people living in conditions of squalor and people dying is, you know, in those conditions overall is not acceptable. But I think that's where do you draw the line? Do you say, for example, America boycotting the Olympics and Russia boycotting the Olympics in America? What does that achieve? We're not sure. We're difficult. Even, you know, years later, we still haven't really gauged a measurement of what that actually achieved. So, is it the handing out of the World Cup initially? Is that the problem, the Qatar, or is that should teams refuse to go and players refuse to play? And those are different matters. It's a broader picture then in sport. What other countries do you pick and say you can't do that? And what other? So it is very, very complex issue, and something that needs a wider debate, maybe.
Does that mean that you will or you won't be protesting tomorrow?
I don't know if the players are. I haven't discussed it with them. You know, I leave that to themselves. If whatever they want to do, I've nothing planned from my point of view.
Thank you very much.
42, please.
Thanks, Stephen. To bring it back to football, unfortunately, obviously the reaction in Ireland to the Lux. Oh, sorry.
No, you can't.
Is that gone?
There you go.
Okay, sorry. The reaction here, Stephen, has been very downbeat to the result against Luxembourg. What can you do tomorrow night to end the camp on a more positive note? What's success in that regard, or can there be success in that regard in a friendly match?
Yeah, you know, I think there's no points. We know that there's no World Cup points in the game. You know, it's our 3rd game in 6 days with 2 trips. Obviously, flying to Serbia, coming back, getting ready, jumping back on a plane to Hungary, getting back out, getting ready. So we're ready. We'll train tonight, and we'll get ready. We want a good performance, and you know, Qatar have beaten the other 2 teams obviously this week, Azerbaijan and Luxembourg, and they were obviously they won the Asia Cup, beating Japan to their credit, and they were in Copa America in the group with Argentina and Colombia. You know, they've done very well overall football wise. They've been very good. So it's a good game, and we want to make sure we're ready. A lot of players are getting vital experience, and I think that's important. And we want to put in a good performance. We're disappointed, of course, to lose. You know, that's something we're all aware of. You know, that is a huge disappointment from losing the game the other night. So we want to put that. You know, we want to sort of, as you say, finish on a better note.
And finally, for me, Stephen, do you see tomorrow night's game as a chance to give minutes to those perhaps more experienced players who haven't featured in the last 2 games?
Yeah, you know, yeah, I think, you know, there will be changes in the team, of course, and I think one of the things that we found is that some players that weren't playing. One of the problems that we've had when we've analysed everything, one of the players that aren't playing in teams, when they had to go the second game, you know, in 3 days, having not played in a month or something, or not played in 6 weeks, had to go to the second game. They found that they couldn't get to the levels they were at in the opening game. with speed and sharpness, and that was an issue. And it's not an excuse. Like, I'm not trying to make excuse. I'm just giving. I'm just trying to give you some feedback, and that's it.
Thanks, Stephen.
Thank you.
Okay, we've only got 2 minutes left of the live section, so Ronan, everyone in from this point, just keep it to one question, try and fit as many as possible. Ronan McNamara, please.
Hi, Stephen. Just
Hi, Ronan.
go back to the young players there. There's 7 players and 8 if you include Kelleher who had to unfortunately withdraw in the squad who are under the age of 22. Do you think it's a case of short-term pain in terms of lack of consistency in results in order for these players to come through the long term as you try to change the style of play?
Yeah, I'm very determined that we will improve and get it right. We've just had a real kick in the teeth losing to Luxembourg, and I understand because the World Cup points are so sought after and hard earned that is it. I'm not going to try to, it'd be too easy for me to say that we'll have long-term success with this. But what I will say is that all of those players coming through, a lot of them are very talented. Some suggestions of some of them, they'll all end back playing in Ireland and they're not that talented. All those players that have come in, Darrell O'Shea, Jason Knight, Jason Malumbi, Aaron Connolly, Caoimhin Kelleher, Gavin Bazunu, and all of those players, they will all have good careers at the top level. They are going to be good players for Ireland in the future, and they are talented players, and you will see them blossom. And other players like Troy Parrott as well, and players that I haven't even mentioned. The Adam Oid is young Nathan, and I think we've got a whole lot of players coming through, and I think that's a real positive in relation to. But I do think it's not just long term. I think we've been good, and we can be good in this campaign. We were very good against Serbia. We just let ourselves down by not capitalising on the situations that we had the other night against Luxembourg and not being creative in the areas that we could have been, and that's really hurt us.
Thanks, Ian.
One more question in the live section. Ronan Murphy.
Yeah, so the Irish public and perhaps the Irish media too were maybe guilty of underestimating Luxembourg. Do you think that could be the case against Qatar, that the Irish public might think that this is an easy game for Ireland, especially given recent friendly against Oman probably might be similar in a type style of opponent?
Yeah, no, I don't think there's a comparison between Oman and Qatar. Like, I think I've spoken already about they've had some good results, and they've obviously, but the opportunity to play in Copa America was obviously very beneficial for them, and now the opportunity to be in our group as, albeit as friendlies, I'm sure is good preparation for them, getting contrasts and styles between Copa America and the European styles when they play in the World Cup. So they've had consistently good results. So we'll have to be at our best.
We just want to take a quick break to speak about our sponsors for this video and podcast, Team FeedPay. As you can see in the image there, some of the clubs that Team FeedPay has acquired, Shamrock Rovers being the main one so far. Team FeedPay is an easy to use online payment platform that covers management and administration, finance, club development, communication, governance and COVID track and trace. Club administrators save hours of time with Team FeedPay, save time on administration and finance. You can quickly confirm, decline and record attendance at club sessions and events. With a new database created, parents and players register with the system, which in turn creates and builds a player database for the club. Team groups can be easily set up for easy access to data. Real-time transaction updates. Team FeedPay keeps club administrators or team managers updated on processed payments, but also flags up incomplete transactions and automatically emails the payee to give notice of a future attempt. Team FeedPay already works with over 1,000 leagues, clubs and academies and are growing all the time. Team FeedPay is proud to be helping clubs across multiple sports. Team FeedPay is free to use, it's free to install by all of their members. There are no hidden fees, there is no sign-up fee, no annual fee and no monthly membership fee. The processing fee. Team FeedPay charge a very modest fee for any financial transaction that they process, similar to the bank or other credit card processor fees. Book your Zoom demo today at teamfeedpay.com or call on +353 1526 7499.
Hi, Brendan.
Just a quick one from me, Stephen. Just listening to a lot of the debate after the game, and kind of get this impression that Stephen Kelly's trying and win matches a harder way. He's trying to find a more romantic, harder way to win a game. Well, in actual fact, I would imagine that it's probably the most effective way. But people are getting this impression that you're trying to win matches another way. Yes, you are, but it's not necessarily a harder way to win the matches. If you want to comment on that.
No, it isn't. I think I understand the legitimate criticism of, say, 3-4-1-2, which is not a system I always play, is because you have three defenders, suddenly it's more defensive than two centre backs, because that's not the case. Neither one is more attack or defensive than the other. It's the way you utilise them. And I think I do get the point that probably I had favoured 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3 for a large part of my career, and I'm still a big fan of that system. I think the fact that so many of our wingers were just have been injured in recent weeks, sort of, and the fact that we can maximise the whole Seamus Coleman, Matt Doherty conundrum to its fullest. Obviously, we weren't able to when Matt tweaked his hamstring midway through the half, so that wasn't it. And I think because you want to pick a system that suits your better players, and I think obviously James McLean been out for a month and not actually physically trained in a session. Not that he wasn't. He actually hadn't even ran up to the other day. So in a month, and Robbie Brady having his Achilles issue. Obviously Callum O'Dowd had not been in the squad, and Aaron Connolly, who can play wide, are not been injured. So that made our opportunity to play 4-2-3-1 in that less of a possibility. But I think a lot of what we wanted to work on worked for us against Luxembourg, in establishing possession, dominating the area, but our cutting edge, for different reasons, in the dynamic between our front three, we never quite got right. And I think and with Raiders coming from the wing back areas, that we didn't quite get that right, and that was critical for service. And we still probably created 4 or 5 chances to 1. And Luxembourg lost to Ukraine 1-0 last year, who won the group with Portugal. So you see, they're not pushovers, but we still should have done better than we did. Sorry. We still should have done a lot better than we did. I'm not trying to dress that up.
So yesterday, both Roy Barrows and Jerry McInerney spoke very supportively of you, spoke about appreciating what you're trying to do and the bumps along the roads, whatever else. You've been in the game long enough. Does that mean anything to you as such? Are you appreciative of that support? Are you aware of how quickly things can change and ultimately maybe it doesn't really matter?
Difficult to answer the question. Like, I don't know. I think, I mean, Roy Barrett, chairman of the board, and the board have been supportive to everything we're doing, and I've not sensed any change in that regard at all. So, that's all appreciated, and I think we have everyone's working hard behind the scenes. We have to work harder to get better, and I think we have to, areas that we have to improve in for sure.
It does seem that you spoke with younger players there and their quality, which I think most people appreciate. Is there, are we trying to make up for a gulf though? Is there a lot of responsibility being placed on their shoulders at an earlier age than you might like if they were being made?
Yeah, but it's also an opportunity. They're going to improve all the time, and this having the exposure and having that is going to give them a great opportunity these are not. I know that I made the point already, and I don't want to repeat myself. But all those players are really talented players. That whether they become top class international players, only time will tell. You can't be certain of all of that, but they're going to have very, very good careers, and a lot of them I would really think have the potential to be very good. And what's more important is a lot of them have exceptional attitudes, and are really hungry to do well, and they've got great leaders like Seamus Coleman, who's an immense captain, and he's great to have him here he's in camp, and they can learn a lot from him and from the other senior players. They can learn a lot, so that's very important. Thank you.
Brendan O'Brien, please.
Thanks, Steve. Good to see you. You mentioned the 9-day summer camp in Spain earlier. What is the plan for that? What can you do during that nine-day window, maybe that you haven't been able to do so far in terms of getting your philosophy and your ideas across?
I think it's just an opportunity to train, because we've not had that, because every window's been a 3-game window, and I think it's been in a day and a half training go, or a couple of days training and go. I think it's an opportunity to train together, improve what we do, incorporate all our ideas in the different changes, and just for players to bond, be around each other, and in a proper, less sort of chaotic environment, which can be 3 games in 6 days, where you're travelling on a plane back, you're in match day -1, you play, you're gone, you're match day -1. So it's just a lot of sort of it's not so much time in the training ground, and I think an opportunity to do that as a team and to grow as a team and integrate all of the players together that we selected, and with a greater idea of having a strong September now. It would have been a better plan if we beat Luxembourg, of course, and that's, I have to accept that's a real disappointment. But I think, and that I felt it would be if we beat Luxembourg we beat Luxembourg 1-0. If we're going there in a very, very strong frame of mind with a view to June and going into September, and that would be the way I would view it. But still, nevertheless, there's 18 points to play for in this group, and all of the teams are capable. You've seen Portugal's 1-0 win at home to Azerbaijan, and with an OG, so all the teams are capable of taking points. We've seen Azerbaijan draw with Croatia last year in the Euro qualifiers, Croatia World Cup finalists. So it's Luxembourg and Azerbaijan are capable of taking points off people, so we've got to make sure we're right and try and get the maximum amount of points that we can.
Just finally for me, a lot of focus obviously on the lack of goals in the first 10 games. I think there's only 3 clean sheets so far. What do you need to do better defensively going forward?
Yeah, I mean, we've got punished for defensive. Obviously, the issues have been more defense, attacking, scoring goals, obviously, than defending. Basically, defending's been quite good overall, but three goals, a couple of mistakes maybe in the game against Serbia. So we won't just focus on one system. We will have the ability to play 2 systems, depending on who we have available, because every camp can have different players available, and depending on who we're playing. So I think that's what we need to do, I feel, and so our defending, all right. We've had 3 different goalkeepers sort of in the last 3 games, but and Darrell O'Shea's come in. Obviously, Kieran Clark's come back in. Haven't been away for a long time, but by and large, our defending over the period has been good. And obviously, we've John Egan to come back as well, who's one of our best players. So John is to come back. I think we're lucky with Matt and Enda. Matt tweaked his hamstring, not been playing. Enda's not at the level he was in September or October, because he's had 2 injuries. One, a knee injury that ruled him out of our November window. He was out for a long time with that, and also in a sort of a groin osteopubis situation, which he's been managing, which means his training has been very interrupted, which means he's not really have a full training program. So you can see athletically, he's playing, but he's still a very intelligent player and very good in the ball. Athletically, he's probably not at the level he was at, but he will come good again, and he's now he's an exceptional left back. And
Philip Quinn, please.
Hi, Stephen.
Hi,
You
Philip.
seem very focused and very on your game today. Can I just bring you to something that appeared in the London Times from Tony Cascarino this morning, where he says he charges you with tactical ignorance in his column, Bomber Striker. He says you're trying to implement a system that leads to a team dominating the ball but not causing problems for opponents and not scoring enough goals. What's your reaction to that, please?
yeah, listen, it's he's certainly entitled to his opinion, and he's a great striker for Ireland. A lot of respect for him as a centre forward for Ireland. I think we can't. You can judge each game on it differently in different sets of circumstances, but yeah, you could look at. I thought against Serbia, we were very dynamic. Our front three were very dynamic in that system. Alan Brown probably had his best game, one of his best games for Ireland. I think Callum Robinson's 2 best games for Ireland, and I viewed the whole Euro campaign were against Slovakia and Serbia. In my opinion, they were his best 2 games for Ireland by a distance. And Aaron Connolly, what Aaron Connolly would have given us probably what we didn't have against Luxembourg. And it's now, because they have different characteristics, obviously, is the ability to stretch the defence, as Aaron Connolly did against Serbia with them runs. People said Aaron Connolly wasn't that effective on the night, but I suppose his constant running behind just completely opens up the play for someone like Alan Brown. And Callum, people think Callum's one that runs over the top, and he's not that at all. He's actually an intricate player who either playing off a striker or coming on from the left. So looking at the Luxembourg the other day, looking at that, some of the criticism is justified, like that we didn't create, with all the possession that we had, we should have created more than we did, and we have to accept that there is an element of criticism there that is justified, that we need to be more creative in that final third and need better combination play between our attacking players and our wing backs, and that's I accept some of that criticism.
It's fairly harsh words there, Stephen.
Oh, harsh words? No. Tactically what?
He says tactical ignorance.
Yeah, well, that's strong words. Like, people have to write articles and they have to.
You're managing 950 games.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm tactically ignorant now. I don't think that would be the case now. I wouldn't agree with that. I would agree that, I wouldn't agree with that.
We've only got a few minutes left, so we've got to try and get around the house as best as possible. Dan McDonnell.
I don't.
Stephen, you mentioned earlier that you knew the criticism would be a part of this job. This is what would come from territory. There's obviously been a lot of reaction to the weekend. What would your message be to any Irish supporters that have lost patience already, that actually, are now wondering, is this working? Like, what would you say to them?
I would say the 2 qualifiers, the game against Slovakia that we had to win, we lost on penalties to qualify for the Euros, where we dominated away from home against Slovakia, and the game against Serbia, where we sort of went, it was a marginal defeat. We didn't dominate against Serbia. It was pretty evenly contested game overall that we lost. So we come out the wrong side of against a very good attacking team. I think we've shown our capabilities. We've let ourselves down a bit from an attacking point of view, not capitalising, beating Luxembourg, so we have to accept criticism for that. But we have we have a huge amount of talented players coming through. We have a lot of very good professionals, experienced professionals as well. We will integrate the 2 and make ourselves better. I think, there is a clear tactical shift. There's no doubt about that. But let's not. Even though some of the results in the Europe, like, there is a tactical shift, but I do think that they've got to believe in these players. There's a lot of really talented players that are going to come good. I do feel that they're going to improve, and I do think that we can look at other teams over the years, even in recent history, and we don't have to look. It was pointed out to me that Mick McCarthy's team that got to the World Cup didn't win in their first 7 or something, and they had a crack. They had some brilliant players at the time. It was pointed out that Michael O'Neill's Northern Ireland had a long run, unsuccessful run, and then lost to Luxembourg as well in 2013, and that was a turning point. So sometimes when you are implementing and introducing players like that, like we have done, and there can be a criticism if you introduce too many too quickly, people might say, but we have a lot of players that aren't playing at clubs, and a lot of players who've been injured, and some of those players have been and doing very well at the club. So I think collectively we have the capacity. Like, I want to build a team that really exhilarates Irish football people, and that's it. There's nothing more than that. I think we want to be much better. We've hit a sort of low the other day, getting beaten by Luxembourg, and that's, you got to take that on the chin. Some of our players have been nothing short of brilliant against Slovakia and Serbia, and we will continue to build on that and get better again. And that's the way I feel about it.